The Sixers season continues to hang in the balance as this team awaits the return of reigning MVP Joel Embiid, and there's been a concerning lack of clarity on what that status is. Well, we finally received some good news before last night's loss to the Clippers, in which Nick Nurse opened up to the media about a bit of what Joel has going on. In this video, I want to dive into those injury reports, the updates, the outlook, as well as talk about the Sixers seeding and the schedule from here to break down what the full outlook is for the team. So I want to kick it off with the quotes that he said to the media before last night's game. So I'll start off with this coming from NBC's Noah Levick. He says, Nick Nurse, asked about Joel Embiid, said he thinks, quote, there's a very good likelihood he'll return before play-in/playoffs. Robert Covington has been, quote, making some progress. D'Anthony Melton is, quote, not as close yet. Team is hopeful both will be back before the regular season ends. So definitely some more concerning stuff on the sides of D'Anthony Melton specifically. I do think that back injury has risk of shutting him down for the entirety of the season, and that's sad for a lot of reasons. Obviously, the Sixers could use his help, that he's turned himself into a very important player on this team. His skill set is necessary to the way that they play, the way that this team needs, a nice balance to Maxey, all the things that you can attach to him. And also, like, for Melton specifically, this is a contract year. He likely was going to be in store for a pretty hefty payday this offseason, and that's likely cost him several $1,000,000 by not being able to be on the floor and because these back injuries are something that linger. I do think it's good news that Robert Covington is being brought up. It's been forever since they have seen him on the floor. Since the new year, he has not played in a game in a Sixers uniform, and he's a guy that I thought looked very good in the opening couple games with the Sixers, so he's a guy that I do think can make an impact on this team if given the opportunity. But obviously the headline here is Joel Embiid and what he can bring to the floor. That is the guy that changes everything from the Sixers organization. I'm stating the obvious when I say that the reigning MVP of the league, a guy that is top 5 in usage rate for the entirety of his career, is going to change the outlook of a team. But he absolutely is. That this is going to be something that's going to change the entirety of this Sixers team. And we got a little more clarity immediately following. We got this quote from Woj that said here that, quote, it's not a question of if, but when Embiid returns during the regular season. And the belief is, with 9 regular season games left after tonight against the Clippers, that Joel Embiid can be back for a handful of those before the playoffs. Now, I love that the question has shifted from not if, but when, but I still would like to know the answer to it, that we don't have a concrete timeline or target date for when he will step foot on the floor, but we are receiving some great news. And my excitement and intrigue and things even increased today, the following day. We got this news coming down from practice that Nick Nurse, that Joel Embiid did practice today going up against other players. He will join the Sixers on their road trip this weekend. Nick Nurse said that he would love to give a full timeline, but he cannot. But that to me is great news, that beyond just the being on court, doing shooting drills, non-contact stuff, it's now being considered practice. That is no secret that he's been in the ramp-up process, but that's very vague in what exactly that means and what he is doing. All that we've really known to this point is that he's been on the court. No knowledge of what specifically he's been doing. Now we're beginning to get an eye in on that. And what's especially intriguing to me is that he will be traveling with his team on this road trip, because that is something that Joel Embiid has not done since that he's got injured. That this has been a guy that throughout his career has not been a guy that travels when he's not playing, and that's not completely out of the norm for a star player. I will admit that Joel Embiid is a guy that does this more so than most, but this is intriguing, the fact that he's going to be at least with the team. That's the reintroduction process, that even if he's not playing, being there on the bench, as was the case last night, I do think is something that means something to everyone. And something that I think is particularly intriguing is looking at the schedule. So obviously heading to Cleveland for Friday's game, then up to Toronto for a team that's been pretty much bottomed out, but still will always bring a matchup. Then that Tuesday, April 2nd game against Oklahoma City. That date is exactly 8 weeks since Joel Embiid got his surgery, and this was initially labeled a 6 to 8 week potential timeline. So that would be exactly on the 8-week margin, and that is a date I think we should have our eyes on. If it is not that case, then looking down to Miami, which is going to be a huge game in terms of seeding. I'm going to pull up these standings in a second and talk about that a little more in depth, but that is a matchup that the Sixers should have circled and will play a huge factor in where they end up. Then beyond that, against the Memphis Grizzlies, who are a brutal team, the San Antonio Spurs, who are obviously very young and just looking towards the end of the season, the Detroit Pistons, also a poor team, the Orlando Magic, who've been playing quite well of late, and then the Brooklyn Nets. So a really favorable schedule to end the season, which is something that could play a huge factor for the Sixers team. But I did want to talk about these standings as a whole, that I think the best case scenario for this Sixers team is a strong push to end the season and try and carry that momentum into playoffs. So to look at these standings in the Eastern Conference, no surprise the Celtics continue to distance themselves and hold the first place. But what is really intriguing is the 6 through 8 seeds here. So the Orlando Magic essentially have kind of separated themselves for that 5th pick. They initially were in this mix when I've been talking about it throughout the course of the season, but they have been playing some really good basketball. 6-4 in their last 10. They've been impressive of late. Beyond that, the Pacers at number 6 with a 41-33 record. Down 1 seed is the Miami Heat with a 39-33 record, just 1 game back due to the amount of games played. The Sixers a half game behind the Heat, so 18.5 back of first place. So the Sixers a game and a half behind that 6 seed, 1 game behind, or half a game behind that 7 seed, and that is the mix. That obviously the Pacers having that inside track for it, that will keep you out of the playing game. Is that there should be a little line above or below that 6 seed that will keep you out of the playing game, and that is what the eyes are on. Now for the Sixers team, it is kind of nice that I think they control their own destiny a little more than people are giving them credit. And again, to pull it up, that Miami Heat matchup on Thursday, April the 4th, I think will essentially decide the difference between the 7 and 8 seed there. And even the difference in the 7 and 8 seed is something that's notable. We're talking about home court advantage, having to win just 1 game to clear out. There's a ton of advantages to being above the Heat. So that is one I have on my calendar circled as a must-win for the Sixers. And again, I've seen a lot of skepticism. I know I talked about this in a past video. I've seen a lot of skepticism of people saying, why even bring Joel Embiid back? Why is it even worth it? And to that point, I did want to note why. Because the Sixers are absolutely a contender when he's on the floor. And to note specifics for why, that before Joel Embiid got hurt, the Sixers had the 2nd best net rating in the NBA. Since he got hurt, they flipped Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz, and Patrick Beverley into Buddy Hield, Kyle Lowry, and Cam Payne. So the supporting cast got better, and with Joel before, they were already pretty damn good. That with Joel on the floor this season, the Sixers have gone 26-7. That 76% win rate would have them as the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference if that had gone on through the length of the season. Now, I know that's not a perfect comparison, that obviously they had a little bit easier portion of the schedule during the time in which Joel was on the floor, but the bottom line is that production is still noteworthy. That's still something that you have to keep in mind, and just give them a little credit for how high the top-end talent is of Joel Embiid. That basketball, more than any other sport, one player can make such a difference. And that is so clear on the Sixers team. With the limitations of the guys around Joel Embiid, that when he's on the floor, they just have to play their role. We're seeing a ton of guys kind of fight above their weight class in the current moment, as they have too much on their plate to digest. So with Joel, that all comes a little back to normal, and it's super exciting that it seems like this is finally becoming a reality. That all across this timeline during his recovery, it's been so closed-mouthed, everything held tight, kept close to the vest, that finally they're opening up a little, that we're beginning to see access of what Joel looks like on the floor, that he's actually practicing, and that there is a return pretty much set in stone at this point. I would be shocked at this point if Joel does not play the season, and that is a great sign. That now that all signs are pointing to him actually coming back to help this team, it's time to start being all in on the Sixers team again. That give this team a puncher's chance. We are about to see Joel Embiid have the healthiest postseason of his playing career, and that's exciting to me, and something that I think can produce far more impressive results than people are giving him credit. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Drop me your prediction for what game Joel Embiid makes his return. I hope we have a little more clarity before then, but I do think it'd be pretty cool if Nick Nurse just pulls a baller move and walks up and says, yeah, Joel Embiid's playing tonight on a random night. That would be cool as well. But I do want to hear from you guys on when you think his actual return would be. Also, make sure you are smashing that subscribe button, dropping a like on this channel, helping us here at Sixers Digest grow. I'll be talking with you next time right here. Peace.